morning.
Good morning.
Got your coffee?
Got my coffee.
I'm cheating. I have
Oh,
tea.
oh damn.
I started drinking coffee really, really early today. So now my stomach's like, maybe tea.
Uh, uh, I don't stop drinking coffee. It's like the whole day. I mix it with tea sometimes, but coffee is the whole day.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, uh, I hope that the powers that be preserve me from becoming a cappuccino drinker. But other than that.
Uh,
So day three, it's less immediate because it was Friday, but yeah, it's over.
yeah, it's over. It's over. It was sad. There was in the end a night of Lisbon with music and everything, and you could see the city. And I thought, oh, I want to be there.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's over, and it was a good summit.
yeah, yeah. It was a very very interesting experience. I saw a lot of talks on day three around climate, and everybody was like, next year let's get to it. Let's make it happen. Lots of calls to action. So that it was very forward looking.
Yeah, and you were complaining about the calls of action, right? Because
Yeah,
everybody
well,
is.
so I mean, a call of action is cool, but I would have liked more examples of people saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and more of announcements and statements of intent than calling to action.
Yeah,
And the whole thing about constantly kind of fluffing up the audience and saying, "Oh, you guys are the leaders of the future." So it's like, look, if we
you
don't
need
need
to do
leaders,
it.
we need content.
You need to do it. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
we all need to do.
yeah. It's an easy way for people to tell others to do something, to basically um and that is a way to not do it yourself, right? So if a lot of people love to talk about how people need to innovate to make our world a more sustainable place.
Hmm.
Well, do it yourself as well, right?
Yeah,
It's easy to tell others to do something if you don't do it yourself.
yeah, yeah,
So I
and
agree.
beware of greenwashing with nice statements. It was very shocking to me to find out to an Ars Technica article recently that a lot of carbon credits are actually sold by firms saying, okay, we were going to cut this forest down,
Yeah,
but now
but
we're
now we
not.
don't.
So that's carbon credits. We have planted trees, and examples where actually it was because it was economically feasible locally, virgin rainforest was raised in order to plant trees of a carbon credit program. We're like, no, we
Yeah,
can't. Everybody involved with this had a moment where they
yeah,
realized that this is freaking impossible. I mean, really. And then
yeah,
today it emerged in the Dutch news that part of the Dutch carbon credit program apparently is running on Estonian biomass, which is just cutting down virgin forest and putting it
yeah,
in
yeah.
pellets. It's like, guys, really, no, we can't. We can't pretend to do this. This is the one thing humanity cannot pretend to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I mean there's a couple of technologies that are coming up, like carbon tech that captures carbon, does something with it, but they're still in very infant stages, and we need them to be more advanced right now, but they're not. So I see that things are happening,
Yeah.
but not fast enough.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't believe or to involve with people who talk about stopping and reversing climate change. I don't think that's realistic. I think we need coping strategies. And yes, we need to minimize climate change, absolutely. But the stopping and reversing, that ship has sailed. Like
I
we're
do
we're,
think
we're still in the Club of Rome projections. 2020 is not looking great.
I am a firm believer that we can reverse it, and also because I want to reverse it. There's so many beautiful things that we're losing if we don't reverse it. Today I read that the Great Barrier Reef is now at a stage where we don't know if we can save it anymore. But let's try to restore it. Let's try, if we destroyed it, I want to do everything we can to restore it. That's like a natural monument that we have to respect. Why do we respect our buildings more than our nature?
Yeah. No, part of me is like, there's so much we're losing, and that has so much intrinsic value. We should try to restore it. It's a moral obligation. Another part of me is like, yeah, but what's next? And we have to deal with and optimize for what's next. And if we break down biodiversity in such a rapid way that the whole system can't recover, that's the catastrophe. I mean, there's many things not around anymore that there used to be, because at some point bacteria started producing oxygen that was lethal to everything else. I mean, they don't feel guilty about it. We have a consciousness, we do, and I think we should. But to me, to my outlook, what's next matters more than what has been. And like, yeah, Great Barrier Reef. I mean, I learned to dive when I was 12. I love diving. I love the sea. I love the underwater world. But the best thing I can do for that reef is not go there. Not fly in and not rent a boat and not go out there and not be an alien in that environment. Is just
True, and I think that innovation will help there as well, right?
a lot.
Google has did you see that, the Google Earth version where you can walk through the Great Barrier Reef, like Street View, but Barrier Reef view, basically. Yeah, I still believe we can reverse a lot, also because carbon, this is valuable. That's
It is.
the interesting thing. Carbon is something we can use. We can create materials out of it that are super strong, that can become a lot of things. We know how to deal with it. Carbon is valuable.
Yeah.
So if we can capture it, that's a resource.
Yeah.
Right now it's too expensive, but if there will be a tipping point, like with a lot of technologies, where it actually becomes a thing to capture carbon. And
Yeah.
I think that tipping point will be there sooner than the tipping point of going to space and mining an asteroid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look,
that we can go to space,
innovation, like you said, is a great thing. A century ago, we developed more or less efficient nitrogen capture technologies to make fertilizer, which, I mean, industrial farming has a really bad rep. But if we didn't, we would have raised every forest on the planet already just trying to feed ourselves. So if we can fix carbon from air the way we can fix nitrogen, that would be a huge thing. I think we're making really good steps on energy capture. Now we need storage and transportation. Yeah, we can do this, and I believe we will. And what I like about what we're doing is trying to build the kind of business ecosystems in which this change happens faster and with more impact. And more locally.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed and see if it will happen in our lifetime. I would love to see that happening.
Yeah, I'm a bit afraid when I listen to the Websummit Day 3 talks that everybody is kind of trying to design it and plan it and then build it and build coalitions and de-risk everything. Where it's like, then we need to tinker, guys. We need to tinker around with technologies. And then we will have breakthroughs. I mean, big breakthroughs do not occur because you plant them. They just don't. There are no historical examples.
True. And you can plan things to facilitate breakthroughs. You cannot plan the breakthroughs themselves.
No.
And I think that whole idea that you need to shift it, right? You can facilitate things. You can facilitate a lot of things, but I don't even think that we understand in Europe how to facilitate things. And I think that brings me maybe to the talk of Margaret Vestager. she was talking that in all the time of the European Union that it existed, we were unable to create a single market.
Mm.
And I think the main reason for that, and I see it even in a tiny country like the Netherlands, is that ego is so important in our politics.
Mm.
Everybody wants to have their own little Silicon Valley, and everybody wants to be the next innovation ecosystem.
Right.
You can't be that, right? So one of the things we talk about is that when you want to create an innovation ecosystem, you need to have incredibly high density of startups.
Yep.
There simply are not
the startups, of talent, of investors, of
exactly.
everything.
There are not that many startups. So if everybody in Europe wants to be the next Silicon Valley, you're diluting the talent pool. You're diluting that concentration.
Yeah.
Concentration is what matters.
Yeah.
If you don't have that concentration of people, ideas don't happen. And because everybody is ruling with their own ego, basically, and saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. No, we need this. It's we, and we need this. We need areas of high concentration of people working together on fixing these problems. And that's one way to facilitate it. And because we don't make that decision in Europe or even in the Netherlands to say, hey, listen up, guys and girls, we are going to do this, and we're going to become the best at this, and we're going to get the highest concentration of startups in this area, in this one building, nothing will happen.
Yeah. So there are some huge opportunities, but there's a legacy in ways of thinking and acting that isn't cognizant of how innovation works historically. But I do think there's a lot of good science on how to structure for innovation, and I do see things moving in the right direction. And I mean, if I'm talking to all these founders in, for example, the Founders Book Club, I'm really seeing people who are creating purpose-driven organizations. Nobody there is pretending to be the next Zuck. They're all saying, okay, it might cost me my life in the sense that it's my life's work. I just want this thing to be successful. And I'll live with two roommates at my near 40th. Doesn't matter. I just need to get this done, and that's respect.
Yeah, I see that as well. I see that. I mean, there is not a week that goes by without someone in my LinkedIn network calling out that they started a B Corp.
Yeah.
Every week I see a new B Corp. Like we're starting a company for the better of this planet. So that's I think we've reached a kind of a social tipping point. Now we need a governance tipping point. I think that governance tipping point is something where there's still a lot of things lacking. Like the governance of innovation is lacking in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at a micro level, it could be a lot easier and have fewer regulations, so it's easier to get started, easier to fail, and then do something else. But at the macro level, we might need better oversight because technological developments can be such that something becomes very cheap very fast. And if it's very, very cheap to create some kind of technology that blocks sunlight and put it in near Earth orbit, that's not great. Somebody who says that they're doing a good thing and they're convinced they're doing a good thing can create outcomes for all of us at very low cost. And that can happen with gene editing. That can happen with a bunch of stuff, and that's
I think we need a new generation of leaders to stand up and set the rules.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know. I think new generation of leaders are kind of recognized post factum.
True. But I mean, still,
Yeah.
I agree. But there are leaders right now in the European Union that I think are doing a really good job. It's just we need to lose a bit of that ego, right? High concentration of businesses has always worked. You see that everywhere.
Yeah.
You see that. Like, I mean, look at the car industry. That's the perfect example. You always see car factories really close to each other. Somehow you see that car factories are always concentrated around an area. Why is that? There is a good reason for that. That it's like we've researched that over and over and over again. We've known this idea of high concentration, putting things together, things will happen. We've known that since like the 1600s, when in Venice the first shopping street started to basically emerge, with an entire street.
Is this
with
from the book, the Da Vinci Code?
I don't know if it's
No,
it's
not
from
the Da Vinci Code. Dumbass.
The Medici effect.
Then
Medici effect.
Sorry?
The Medici effect.
The Medici effect. Yes. Thank
No,
you.
it's not
I
from
need
that
to drink
book.
coffee instead of tea. It's not
No, it's
cutting.
not.
The tea's not cutting.
It's not from that book. No, I don't know from what book it is. But in the 1600s, the first shopping street emerged. It was in Venice. It was a street full with music stores. So stores that made violins,
like instruments.
Instruments, yeah, instrument stores. And the prices of those instruments went down after the shopping street, but the store owners still did it. They still went and made this street and put their stores there together. They did that because they knew that if we put all of our stores together, people will come to this one street and we will sell more. Yes, our numbers will go down, but because people can compare, because people are there, they are talking to each other, they don't go to other cities. Our city will become the city for musical instruments. And it worked. Cool. And that idea of high concentration of anything, putting it together, has been...
The same things happened in watchmaking. You get all the artisans together and they make great stuff. And yes, sometimes your neighbor poaches your talent, but overall you have access to all these great machines and great talent, and everybody knows their finishing techniques, and it's
perfect example. And you can't create that if every single city in Europe wants it, right? So you need to come up with a way to facilitate that, and that's governance, and that's something that is lacking right now.
Right. Yeah. I think that cities will need to adapt to a more digital and more technological society, even than we live in now, and they need to find their niche. What a city with a great port can do is different than what a city further inland can do. And cities with historically great technical universities have completely different dynamics as well.
Look at your strengths.
Yeah, but I don't want to end up with a plant-based economy. I want it to kind of emerge organically, and that means that some cities will have to try and fail at doing this. Also, at that scale, it's about experimentation, but that affects a lot of lives.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to plan some things. I don't want to end up with a plant-based economy, but let's accept that our biggest two competitors are plant-based economies. China is definitely a plant-based economy, and the United States is not necessarily a plant-based economy, but they have a single market, so they are so big that they are a plant-based economy. Difference. It makes a huge difference, and every state knows their strength and because they don't have to compete with each other, they just leave it like that, right? So New York knows that they are a financial hub.
Yeah.
Nobody else in the
Yeah.
United States is standing up and saying, I want to be the next financial hub. They are not competing for those titles. So it's not a plan-based economy necessarily.
No, but
it works
they
as such.
yeah, right. On the one hand, they have a single market, and on the other hand, they have diversification and specialization
Yeah.
regionally. And I think one of our Achilles heels in Europe is that we're enough. We have enough connectedness to each other at the country level to create interdependencies that can slow each other down, but we don't have that common market yet, and that's what Vesta just said, and she's right. That's a problem. I mean, I talk to founders on a weekly basis who are like, yeah, now I got my product approved for the Dutch healthcare market or whatever, and now I want to expand to Belgium, and then actually inside one country I have three regulatory systems to deal with, and oh my goodness, and that is just Benelux. That's square millimeter market expansion. This is not and I mean, the intent was that if something gets approved in one country, it's marketable everywhere. But there are so many exceptions that it's only an advantage to Nestle coffee cups, but very hard for startups to deep dive.
Yeah, but the startups have to think about this themselves as well, right? So, I mean, this is already becoming a very long coffee talk, but the startups in the United States don't find it hard to move. So if you're a startup and you come up with a great idea for a fintech startup, there's no questions. You move to New York if you want to succeed. You know that is part of your thinking, right?
Right. So if you're in the valley and you're pivoting towards fintech, you just pick up sticks, move to the other side of the continent.
Yeah, you can stay in the valley, and there's a likelihood you succeed there as well, just because it's the valley. But I mean, if you're in the middle of Arizona and you want to start a fintech startup, you can better move to New York. I mean, you can succeed in Arizona, but your chances are higher in New York. And I think that idea of the United States, that you can just move, you just pick up your stuff, you sell whatever you don't want to bring, and you go to the next place. We really don't have that in Europe. Maybe not as much. And that is also very important. I mean, if you're a startup and if you are doing something in fintech, then even though there's Brexit coming up, you should go to London. And we can all dream that we have the fintech hub, and every city wants to be the next fintech hub. That's nice, but it's still London.
Right.
And you can discuss that for eternity. If you want to do something with a more artistic, design-centric approach, you go to Berlin. We already have certain hubs, but we don't move around that much. But you do see that the startups that do move, they're more successful.
But Lisbon is really also with Websummit, they're extending the invitation. Like, if you want to build something great, come to us. We'll make it easy for you. We want your energy. We want your talent. They invited, more than 100,000 people over the past 3 working days to come and chill there.
But also very specific, right? So Lisbon focuses on digital technology for sustainability, for the SDGs.
Right. That intersection, that's Lisbon.
That's Lisbon. And Barcelona is everything that has to do with mobile wireless networks and smart city, because that's an extension of that.
Right.
So all of these cities that are successful, they have focused and they have said, this is what we're doing. And we are going to be the very best at that. And we're going to create the highest concentration of startups around that subject.
Yeah.
And they become even more successful if they increase the concentration by saying it's going to be in that neighborhood.
Yes.
And that idea of concentration is something we need to better understand as governance. And apply. And if we are talking about a governance level, think about that.
Yes.
And not just as cities, also as companies. If you want to start an innovation hub for fintech, please do it in London, because you'll be better off. You're in an area where there's a higher concentration of fintech startups, and that helps.
Yeah. So what are like the three books you would recommend to people who are thinking about these kind of problems to get their bases covered? We already discussed the Medici effect. I think that's one of them.
The Medici effect is definitely one of them. They talk about this extensively, about the concentration of a specific thing that to make it better. Good question. I should have thought of that before we started this conversation.
I like How Innovation Works by Matt Ridley, because it also extends a bit of a warning, like you can't plan innovation. Like as a government, you can't really paint by numbers if you want something. And there's a great story about the origin of flight and the Wright brothers and how that did and didn't go. So I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
And maybe there needs to be a new book written.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just looking around.
Right.
You know, I wrote my my thesis on this subject. It's stupid, but over 10 years ago.
Okay, well, let's put a link in the notes.
Oh no! It's already, but that was that.
Why not?
It talked about, well, it's because it's already old and not relevant anymore. But I can probably write something. But it already talked about open innovation, and that if you want to do open innovation, you need to find places where there's a high concentration of people with that specific area of expertise. Or interest, maybe that's even better. The interest is there, maybe not the expertise, but the interest. And I mean, the planned economies are doing this extremely well, China, but this is how it works, and Europe needs to start thinking about this.
Yeah, maybe a lot of the kind of old thinking about planned economies is because they were created from this super communist mindset where there had to be a lot of equality in many areas, and it was a lot slower to connect and coordinate everything, right?
I think we became scared of the concept
at the macro scale, the planned economy approach of what China is doing, and at the micro scale, a lot of experimentation and specialization, then you can get pretty damn good outcomes.
But our economy is planned. I mean, like we became scared of this concept of a planned economy because, China. But our economy is planned. We have a single currency. What do you think made that currency? That's a plan. That's something we did together to come up with a plan to help our economy grow. We are living in a planned capitalistic model because economy doesn't work without a plan. And you don't have to do what you don't have to become a planned economy in the sense that you say exactly what people have to develop.
Right.
But you can help it get along.
Bread per day.
Yeah, and you can help it. You can facilitate that growth.
Right. Yeah, it's that my inner libertarian goes like, oh, planned economy, hives, heebie-jeebies, no. But yeah, I mean, I want to be open-minded and be able to discuss everything without dogma and then figure out if it works or not. But I'll more convincing.
We're already living. Just accept it. We're already living in a planned economy.
Yeah, I'll have to do some more research in this. Anyway, so what's on the plate? I have a lot of GTD, getting things done, administrative stuff to process.
I think you have a lot of editing to do in this video because it's a long video.
Yeah, it's a long one. I'll need to extract the nuggets.
Yeah. This is not one for LinkedIn. Basically, it's too long for that.
Oh no,
Yeah.
but I can do an excerpt.
Let's start the day. My coffee is gone, so I need another one, and let's just start the day.
Let's get to it. I think I'll make coffee too. It's got tea. It's
I notice it. Your thinking is less. I can see it.
right. My and yeah.
It's your go-go juice.
C'est la vie. All right. Well, let's get to it, and we'll do another one tomorrow, and then we'll pick a single topic and give our audience some focus.
Yes, single topic.
All right. See ya.
Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.